passed away recently, so we took his ashes out on Captain Will Vest's boat along with his wife Bonnie to scatter them to the four winds out on the Chesapeake Bay, as was his wish.
Doug asked me to talk a little bit about David and why we're doing what we're doing and why we're going out there. So David Williams, oh boy, that goes back a long ways. I was going to shoot this outside after Doug told me to, do a little clip and talk about David somewhat and how we, what this was all about. And I decided, you know what? Outside, David's never been here, but right there, he's been sitting a number of times on a number of trips on the way when we went to the Bahamas and when we went from the Bahamas back to the Chesapeake Bay and all those kind of sailing adventures. So this video is about the end of the story, about going out to Stingray Point, scattering the ashes, putting a period on the end. But that's not the story. The story goes way, 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 way back with David and I. And there were a lot of adventures that went on. I mean, we went way back. Look, I found some shots here way back. Here's our very first sailing adventure. I found a thing in Popular Mechanics on how to build a sailboard. Naturally, we built one. It had a plastic sail. We drove it all the way down to Virginia Beach, launched it in the ocean, and proceeded to turn it upside down right away because, little sail surfboards really weren't meant to go ocean sailing. Gee, there's so much stuff to talk about, I would bore you to death. And you didn't know David, maybe necessarily, and you weren't there. But, boy, there were adventures. It started back, I first met him when it all circulated around cars. We did all sorts of things, like, we put a V8 engine in an old Studebaker business coupe. We burnt that up, and then later put a Corvette engine in there. There were adventures and girls and cars and high school and after high school, and then, I went into television, and David went to work for, I think, Bluegrass Cooperage, and they made the whiskey barrels for Jack Daniels, which was a favorite. We got together, decided to start Colony Productions, and he was my business partner for all those years. So yeah, stories of legion, I suppose, that you could tell. David wasn't a big drinker, neither was I, but, during our young Colony Productions days, we had our share. I remember one particular time, David and I liked to talk about things that happened and they kind of stuck, and we talked about them for years and years and years. One of the things I remember is he and I were in Memphis, Tennessee, doing a music jingle for someone, I've forgotten who, but anyway, we were getting the music jingle done, and the client brought in a great big fifth of really hard liquor and put it there on the table and in the hotel room, and we were talking over what we were going to do, and we were drinking on that and so forth. Well, one thing led to another, and we didn't get anything to eat early enough. So by the time we finally got out to eat, it was probably, 11 o'clock at night. And David was pretty stoic. He didn't tell you much unless you asked him and pulled it out of him. But anyway, I asked him, "You all right?" Yeah, he's fine. So we took a cab out to a restaurant, and I thought he was doing pretty good. We ordered drinks again. The waitress came to the table. He, being very stoic, said, "David, did you decide what you wanted?" He said, "Yeah." He looked up at her and he said, "I'd like the fat kish, please." And so for years after that, we said, uh-oh, don't drink so much, you'll end up at the fat kish stage. Now, in the early years, you'll see, here's a shot, David Califf, who's on the boat with us going out to spread the ashes, was there way back early in the beginning in the 60s, late 60s. He was an actor. He had to build his own set in order to be the actor in the commercial. So, we joked about that for years, David and I had to say, boy, poor David Califf, we cast him for the commercial, and we said, okay, you get the part, but by the way, you need to build the set. And so we built the set in an old ice house out back behind the studio. Gosh, I don't know, we could tell forever. Say, "Julie, can I have a tea?" She's fixing me a tea. So David and Colony Productions and I went along for a few years. Then some things changed, His wife didn't like the hours we were working, the time we were spending, and we spent a lot of time. She was right, probably. But anyway, one pressure led to another, and David left, and he ended up going with Commonwealth Films, who did all of our film processing and so forth. And so we actually continued in a business relationship working together, even though we know he was no longer part of Colony.
The four of us sat around in the cockpit talking. Time was pushing midnight. Had a light breeze, sailing probably 3 to 4 knots. It was midnight. David and I started the dog watch. We began to notice clouds coming up out of the south. David said, Gulf Stream. That's the Gulf Stream clouds we're seeing. And Bill stuck his head up out of the cabin and he says, I can feel the waves in the boat. We're coming up on the Gulf Stream. Yep. We were sailing probably 4 knots now, and but we had the added speed of the Gulf Stream at about 3.5 knots. So we were really going north about 8 knots. That was kind of exciting. David and I, in the gray of another day, watched the sun rise up sleepily out of the sea with her yellow brightness, slowly turning to white. David and I sat there admiring the light of a new day. I commenced to telling him a little yarn about flying over from Fort Lauderdale. Got onto an old twin-engine Beechcraft over there with twin tails, old and dirt. And the guy threw the throttles wide open. We went flying down the runway and took off. Well, I'd been used to flying with my partners, who always checked the airplane out, and revved up the engines and tested the magnetos and all of that before they took off, make sure the damn thing was going to have enough power to get off the ground. Well, that didn't instill a lot of confidence in me, let me tell you. Well, we flew on over to Grand Bahama Island and come down for a land, and there was wrecked airplanes laying all up and down both sides of the runway up against trees there in the woods. And that was the second thing I didn't like too much. Pulled up to a little shack there where they checked my papers and everything, make sure it was who I said it was. And it was an old DC-3 sitting there beside the runway with her engines running slow. And she was a sorry-looking thing. Her paint was peeling here and there. And she looked like she hadn't been maintained in the last 30 years. And a whole bunch of people got on it. And there was no seats. It was an old cargo plane. And there was no seats. And they were going down to Tahiti or somewhere. I forgot what the guy said. But anyway, there were 6 or 7 kids with a family, and they were carrying chickens and pigs aboard. And I thought, good gosh. Well, the guys in the shack there to check me in said, yeah, he said, that's the airplane you're going to fly over to Abaco on. I said, oh, no, I ain't getting on that airplane, that darn thing. That don't look safe to me. And they all laughed. Them guys all just died laughing. Well, David thought it was funny too, because he stomped his feet on the cockpit floor and laughed, and I thought he was going to fall in the floor there for a second. Anyway, we had fun over it.
Well, ahoy there.
Hello.
I was just talking about David.
Yeah.
When was it that you met up with David?
Gee, I guess that was in the late 70s, very late 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I met him over at Commonwealth one day when you were editing. You know, was really a lifelong friend. We loved him, and
you got any
had some
stories?
Great memories.
What we're looking for is stories here, fun stories. heavily, but there was a time in the Bahamas you might want to relay.
Yeah, there was one time when it was near dinner time. Dinner was ready, but none of us had eaten, and we ran into the island real quick for me to make a phone call to check in with the office. And anyway, couldn't get the call through, so of course that meant we had to walk down to Miss Emily's Blue Bee Bar and have a rum drink while we waited. Well,
in the Bahamas in those days, of course, getting a phone call through is not like now.
no, it could be a struggle. And rum drinks weren't like they are here either. It was mostly rum, and rum was less expensive than the tonic, I guess. So anyway, we had a drink, and I went back to the phone house. Still couldn't get my call through. And what do? You have another drink. And
another.
we all got pretty schnocked and ended up coming back. I never got the call through, as I recall, anyway.
Here's the big thing. Here's the thing you knew that David was really schnocked. When we got back to the dinghy, we had run out of gas. When we came up, and we had a gas can, so we were going to put the gas in. Now, David was not known to be overly generous. As a matter of fact, he was known to be really tight. He actually paid a young Bahamian boy $5, and we're talking way back, $5 to pour gas in the can. Unbeknownst to me, because I'd already paid the kid $5 to pour gas in the can, so the kid made that really good. Get a little closer to me here, Julie.
Sorry.
The other part of that story
It was dark by then. We weren't expecting to come back after dark, so we hadn't left a light on the boat. And
we had a hard time finding the boat.
yeah, we really did. And it just seemed like the boat was going so slow. And anyway, we were weaving all around the anchorage. We finally found the boat, and everybody crashed that night. But the next day we found out why the boat was going so slow. We had forgotten to pull in the dinghy anchor.
I guess the best thing to say about David is like, he was the kind of guy, he didn't talk much unless you pulled it out of him. On the other hand, he was the kind of guy that always had your back.
He was a trooper, and in the Bahamas, we had a hurricane coming, or if we had some other problem, like one time with the line that got around the prop, David just, called Commonwealth, said, I can't get back right now, and he stuck with us till, we felt like we didn't need his help, and he was great that way.
So in that way, he's not going to be replaceable.
No, never.
He's going to be well missed. Sorry about that. I didn't even think that would bother me this late. Okay, well, anyway, he will be well missed. Good friends aren't replaceable.
We loved him.
We loved him.
Yeah, we did.
So, David, R.I.P. You went out on the outgoing tide, so I hope you're out there sailing through whatever's next.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. All right, folks. I guess that's enough for me.
All right, I guess it's about time for us to get aboard the boat and go do our duty to David. We just passed the green marker that is the mouth of Broad Creek and an intersection to the Rappahannock River. Down ahead of us, a little bit to our starboard, is Stingray Point Light, a single piling with a light on it and a couple of green cards. She once was a whole lighthouse sitting out there that we were all familiar with. But that's where we're going to set David's ashes. In the distance there on the right stands the Stingray Point Lighthouse. She's been rounded by the Pianki Tank steamer, headed up into the Pianki Tank to Fishing Bay to dock at Ruark Steamboat Dock on Fishing Bay there. The old lighthouse was a welcoming sight to David and all the rest of us as we sailed down the Chesapeake Bay, picking up the lighthouse in the pre-dawn from about the Potomac River. She was home port. There's Julie at the helm, holding a steady course out to Stingray Point into the wind. Where there was once a lighthouse out there's now just a single piling with a light on it. Times have changed. There's Captain Will Vest sitting there at the helmsman station with Julie Peterson. And, the first time I ever met Will, he was a little tiny fellow running around the docks, the Eugene Rourke's Marina on Fishing Bay. His mom and dad had their sailboat there, and we were all good friends. There's Bonnie Vest, Will's wife, who came down and worked at the marina when I was dockmaster there and helped me out, and she kept books on the computer, and her and I got to know each other pretty good and laughed together a little here and there. There's a chart of the Chesapeake Bay with stingray light out there inside of a round circle with an X drawn on it. There's a red line coming out of Broad Creek out to the light. And that line is the course we had followed to go out to Stingray Point Light and spread David's ashes onto the Chesapeake Bay waters to be out into the Atlantic Ocean. And a blue line coming in off the red circle. Okay, we have rounded Stingray Point Light and headed west towards Stove Point. If you look off to our starboard, you can see Stove Point laying across the Pianki Tank River, almost down to Quinn's Island. Running down along that course will take us right into Quinn's Island Narrows, go onto the bridge and come out on the other side where the restaurant is. Wheels getting ready to head us on through the Quinn's Island Narrows swing bridge, just ahead. We come through the bridge at the Narrows there and meandered our way down along towards the hole-in-the-wall restaurant. Came up to the dock and tied up, and our boat was pointing straight out into the Chesapeake Bay through the hole-in-the-wall. That's the shortcut through the island, and there was a rainbow dipping right straight down in the middle of the hole in the wall. There sits Bill, hand outstretched towards the seat we saved for Dave, so that we could drink a toast to the trip he's made through life and the one he has ahead of him, sailing